Welcome to College Recruiter, where we believe that every student and grad deserves a great career. I'm Anna Peters, and today we'll be discussing the value that liberal arts students bring to the workforce and why entry-level recruiters should pay attention to this candidate pool. We've brought in Dr. Ascan Koerner and Todd Raphael. Dr. Ascan Koerner is the Director of Undergraduate Communication Studies at the University of Minnesota, and he's also the Faculty Director of the Career Readiness Initiative of the College of Liberal Arts at the university. This initiative is a college-wide effort to make liberal arts graduates competitive and confident on the job market. So thank you, Dr. Koerner, for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Todd Raphael is in touch with talent acquisition leaders around the world via ERE Media, which is a community of recruiters and human resources professionals. Todd helps manage conferences and content and is a frequent guest on radio and podcasts, including for the Wall Street Journal, Newsweek, Time, and Forbes. And so we are also very glad to have you with us, Todd.
Thanks for having me.
Because Todd has his finger on the pulse of recruitment trends, we asked him to come up with some questions for Dr. Koerner that he thinks recruiters would like to know the answers to. So Todd, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks. Yeah. What's the purpose behind what you're doing? The way she was describing it sounds like there might be a need. Is our liberal arts grads seen as somewhat like what less valuable now, or perceived that way? Is there like a problem placing them in jobs, or is this sort of like just a long-standing challenge that's always been there? What's different now than before, if anything?
Right. I mean, I would say the difference now is that there's a public perception that the liberal arts somehow has become less valuable. There has been a public discussion about the value of higher education, generally speaking. And to some extent, there has a lot of arguments been made about STEM education. And the perception about what's valuable in education has really focused on STEM and the idea that in order to be competitive in a dynamic world and in international job markets, and be competitive, one has to really focus on STEM education as institutions and as a nation overall. And so the liberal arts and often has been perceived in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years maybe, as being somewhat less useful or less valuable. And we even see discussions in the public. For example, the governor of Kentucky has questions why public universities even should have liberal arts degrees and why the public shouldn't just invest into STEM education. And so there's a perception out there, the discussion in the political leadership sometimes, that liberal arts are somehow less valuable. And that, of course, makes our students and their parents nervous. And they're asking us, to what extent is the liberal arts education helpful in our careers and for our futures? And so this initiative is really an attempt for us to answer that question, because we do believe that there's a great value in the liberal arts, but the question hasn't really been posed to us in this stark terms, I would say.
So what are you doing? Are you changing what they learn, or are you more about changing the perception? What's the initiative? What are you doing to try to remedy the problem?
It's a little bit of both. What we're really trying to do is we're trying to change how we engage the students in their discussion about their education. I think traditionally we have assumed that the students know what the value of the education is. After all, they come to us, then do our majors and then get degrees from liberal arts college. And so we assume that they know why they're doing it, and that they're confident that indeed the liberal arts degree is helpful for them in their future. But now with these questions coming up about what can I do with this degree? We find this question, they ask us, what can I do with a communication studies degree? What can I do with an art history degree? So they're very concerned. And as a college, we really have traditionally not answered that question very clearly. So we haven't been too concerned about that. But I think in the new environment, we have become more concerned. And so we're not really changing what we teach, but we change how we engage the students in how they understand their own education, and also engage them in a larger discussion about the competencies that they need to develop, rather than just content knowledge that's confined to a particular major.
Is it also about educating employers, or no? Because you're saying you have to sort of teach students, hey, you can do this with art history or humanities and so on. You also have to go to employers and say, here are the reasons why a French or art history or so on major is good and as good as a major in computer science, etc.?
To some extent, we have to. I mean, again, they're also part of the same discussion, and they also hear a lot of emphasis on STEM degrees as being particularly valuable for students. Overall, however, we believe that employers do recognize the value of the liberal arts. And when you ask, for example, what employers value in employees, you find typical liberal arts competencies such as analytical critical thinking, communication, teamwork and leadership, ethical decision-making, engaging diversity, and so forth. You really find this on the top of the list of all employers. So to some extent, employers know what the value of the liberal arts is. But what we did find, and I think what employers also told us they find, is that individual students are not particularly good at explaining that. So the employer might have a good notion and says, yeah, I know that a philosophy major has certain skills that are useful to me. But when they ask the philosophy major, how did your degree or how did your liberal arts education prepare you for this job in General Mills or Target or Forbes, wherever they want to work, then they find that the students have a harder time. And that's why we want to engage the students to be able to answer those questions. We want to, after we engage the students in a conversation about the value of their liberal arts education, we are hopeful, or we are very confident actually, that the students are then able to explain the value of the education much better to future employers. And so it's really an effort to primarily through the student also reach the employers ultimately, so that the employers, when they find to interview our students, and our students are very elegant and eloquent in explaining the value of their education, that it then becomes more apparent to the employers too.
Is this mostly a Minnesota thing, or are there other universities who are doing their own initiatives to try to boost the perception of liberal arts majors?
I think it's a nationwide phenomenon, actually. I think there's many universities, even in the Big Ten. I know Wisconsin has an initiative, Michigan here, and locally various colleges have similar foci on career and career readiness. What is unique in Minnesota is that we really take this very comprehensive approach, and we really take an approach that doesn't just throw a couple career classes at students. So there's some colleges that require a career management course or something where students learn how to do resume writing and interviewing and those important skills, but that don't necessarily integrate the whole liberal arts education. So to that extent that we really make an effort to involve everybody in the college and to talk about the value of the liberal arts education holistically, rather than the value of specific skills such as resume writing or quantitative reasoning or spreadsheet competence or whatnot, right? So we're really trying to emphasize the whole education. And I think we're pretty unique at that, and I know we're at the forefront there, but I think a lot of other universities, when they see what we do, and I think they will be picking up what we do, and we already have requests actually to come to different places and talk to them about what we're doing and helping them do something similar.
Is there anything happening with like people's majors that relates to it? Like, are people encouraged to double major, like major in a liberal arts subject and another subject, or create their own major? Are there ways that the classes you take are changing to kind of prepare you more for jobs while still being a liberal arts major?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there always has been, or we have seen that in the last 10 years or so again, that students individually double up on majors because they get the message that more education is better. Education, essentially, right? And so we've seen that trend, and we're certainly not discouraging that, but we're really trying to go beyond the major, because the truth is that the liberal arts education is much broader than any one major. And very few majors in the liberal arts actually have a specific job pipeline. I mean, there's some. We have journalism major, and yes, many of these journalism, mass communication majors do end up as journalists or work in PR. Right? We have a music teacher program, and yes, indeed, most of the liberal arts students who go to that program become music teachers. But in things like philosophy, sociology, psychology, communication studies, there's not a direct link between the major and a job, so to speak, or an industry even. And therefore, we're really trying to emphasize the value of the liberal arts overall, rather than just a major. And so we're trying to move away from the discussion a little bit, but we're not discouraging it, obviously.
Interesting. Does it also depend on your plans for the future? Like if you plan on going to graduate school or not? Do some people try to kind of thread the needle, so they're trying to take classes that prepare them for grad school? Maybe like, oh, I'm going to major in politics because I think I want to go to law school, but then they end up taking a job. So how does the desire to possibly go to grad school play into it? I imagine if you know you're going to get a job and you're not going to graduate school, that might affect what you're going to major in, or if you're not sure, that might affect also?
Yeah, I think that would affect students. I think we understand career preparedness and career readiness as readiness for graduate school as well as professional careers, right? And indeed, many of our undergrads go on to graduate school or professional school anyway. They become lawyers, they become pharmacists, doctors, veterinarians, and so forth, and do professional degrees. I think overall the perception has been, since we are an R1, a college at an R1 university, and we are research focused, we have been doing a pretty good job in preparing our students to go on to graduate school, because this is really, we all have graduate programs in our departments, and we really are keenly aware of the requirements for graduate school. So I think we always felt that we have done a pretty good job to prepare our students for graduate school. And that might have been even the criticism a little bit from some of our other undergrads, who felt that our emphasis was a little bit too academic and too much focused on going on to graduate school. But even there, we're shifting the focus by focusing on the competencies to say these are competencies that are really useful in any career, not just any particular professional career or graduate school, but either, right? And again, we articulate these core career competencies broadly enough that they are really the values of the liberal arts and really speak to a broad education that prepares students for a future that is uncertain and dynamic. So we don't try to teach skills that have an expiration date, so to speak. So you're not focusing on a particular computer language or a particular type of software, but we're really on these more enduring skills. And so what we often say is we have two mottos, so to speak. One motto is we want to go understanding education beyond the major, and the other one is that we're really preparing for the third or fifth job and not the first. So the liberal arts degree might not be the best, doesn't necessarily qualify you to go out and get a job without any on-job training, so to speak, but it prepares you for lifelong learning and for a lifelong career, and really to meet the challenges that you face in a career when you're promoted to lead a team or those kind of things.
I imagine that my last question, which is sort of a comment at the same time, I imagine that the whole move to artificial intelligence and automation, robotics, and outsourcing to computers probably is helpful, because it says that, well, it boils down to like, what can a human being do? What will be left? It continues to be, they can think creatively, we can do things that machines can't. Everything else, eventually, we keep saying, it won't be outsourced, and then it becomes outsourced. So I think what it boils down to is the thinking skills are what won't be outsourced, which kind of plays into everything you've been talking about, correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's really, I think, the strengths of the liberal arts, and the argument that we're trying to make to our students is that in this future, skills and processes, they're going to be, as you said, they're going to be taken over by artificial intelligence. I mean, we even see it in journalism now that many news releases and many press stories are written by robots.
Yeah.
They're not actually written by journalists anymore, right? And so even somewhat creative work is now outsourced to artificial intelligence, as you said. And so we really have, as humans, we have to maintain our edge. And I think by studying liberal arts, humans maintaining their edge and have these qualities that computers do not have and hopefully won't have in the future.
I think that's a good note to end on. Very good insight, Dr. Koerner. Thank you for your insight, and thanks for your probing questions, Todd. We will link to both the College of Liberal Arts Career Readiness page at the University of Minnesota and ERE Media. So thank you for listening to our conversation, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Anna. It was very enlightening.